Hey, I'm Martin Kopp, and this is a retrospective for me on nearly a decade of my career across Karma Gaming and their subsequent acquisition by Scientific Games. So to kick things off, I was the second hire at Karma after their game designer, and initially I was in charge of prototyping all of our concepts and building them into fully fledged games we could then deploy to clients. Early on, we were focused on building up a catalog. This was back in 2012, so you're going to see a lot of Facebook games and PopCap influenced designs. So the core goal at Karma was to provide engaging gaming experiences in the digital lottery space. We focused on providing digital products that would satisfy responsible gaming requirements for clients that would generally trend towards longer form games. For a lot of lotteries, the games on their sites were often an afterthought, so it was our goal to bring some quality into that space. Games would be roughly 1 or 2 minutes in playtime per transaction, and usually featuring skill-based gameplay and ancillary mechanics like, traditional collection pieces, leaderboards, mini-games, kind of anything to be more engaging than the typical digital slot or instant reveal. We did a lot of iteration at Karma as we went from concept phase to deployment. You can see here with some of our early concepts eventually becoming games that would be deployed later. A lot of our changes would come from user testing, user feedback, and sometimes bespoke requests by lottery clients. You can really see this here in our Bejeweled Blitz style game. This is the final extended play, but we went through lots of prototyping and iteration, this being the first attempt to eventually making a few different quick plays with the same aesthetic based on client requests. About a year into development at Karma, we wanted to move forward with native deployments. Overseeing another developer, we worked closely together to create an export pipeline from Flash that would convert our vector graphics and animations to sprite sheets and JSON. I then developed a framework around the Starling engine to load those exports, resulting in GPU-accelerated games, greatly increasing our performance while keeping our assets around the same size and quality as their vector counterparts. Developing our framework around Starling also allowed us to deploy natively to mobile using Air runtimes, GPU rendering leading to higher performance even on older devices at the time. The workflow was pretty seamless for our animators, and it allowed them to continue working in a way that they were comfortable. This was our Zuma-style game, Doubloons. You can see it in prototype form in the bottom left, the final deployment in the top left, where we expanded on features and levels. You can also see 2 variations of our instant plays on the right using the same assets. We had a stellar animation team that had a strong quality focus, so we did put an emphasis on reusing their assets whenever we could. Working closely with our lottery clients, we were able to see how successful our deployments were on their platforms. That data, combined with the analytics that I built into our games, helped drive our design and development process. Internally, I oversaw a lot of the A/B testing with our target demographics in order to build user profiles and further guide our design philosophy. Our hidden object crossword game being one of the examples of a title that tested well with users and did well in deployments. We took our learnings from Haunted Hotel and developed a longer form hidden object crossword with even more levels, in-game puzzles, collection pieces, and persistent unlocks across separate playthroughs. This approach across titles consistently led to better user retention and engagement. We had dozens of deployments across our catalog. This video highlights games I was the lead developer or designer on, and even then it's kind of hard to fit everything into one video. So for the most part, it's just highlights or titles where you can see progress across multiple iterations. Before Karma was acquired, the last leap in our tech stack was building our framework in HTML5 on top of the Create.js libraries. We had a lead engineer I worked with to port our framework from ActionScript 3 to JavaScript. At that point, Adobe Animate's HTML5 export was still in its infancy, so porting the framework made the most sense to continue supporting our artists' workflow. So kind of in summary, during my time at Karma, I went from prototyping concepts to developing a framework in-house along with workflow process and tools that led to over 100 deployments, and personally developed, co-developed, or oversaw the development of dozens of games using the framework. After the Scientific Games acquisition, there was a bit of a shift in focus. Lots more customers to service meant a stronger focus on shorter iteration times and simpler mechanics. Scientific Games had a large IP catalog, and we were working on second chance games for lottery clients, so a bit of a shift in focus. A lot of my responsibilities were focused around creating game templates that could easily be skinned with new IP and lottery branding, while taking AS3 games from the Karma back catalog and porting them to our new framework. I was working with a great producer there at the time, who eventually left the company. I ended up absorbing a lot of his responsibilities, managing our scrums, helping in project planning, overseeing the other developers. And throughout this role, I worked closely with our integration team on dozens of successful deployments. Although a lot of the games are really simple, we did have a chance to make a few larger titles for promotions and holiday games that were targeted to be deployed across multiple states. I think this is a pretty good cross-section of some of the more involved titles from Scientific Games. Myself and the rest of the Karma developers that transitioned over had less design input. That, along with a mobile-first focus and doing second chance games instead of digital instants, along with shorter development windows, led to a very different style of games. So yeah, Scientific Games was a bit of a bookend to my time at Karma. It gave me a chance to develop my managerial skills and project planning in an environment that needed quick turnarounds for deployments. So if you made it through all this, thanks a lot for being a companion during this trip down memory lane.